I calculated the other day that I've had 100 years of chairmanship experience, not consecutively, you have to understand, there's been some overlap there. But it is 50 years since I started business in 1961 after leaving Oxford. Oxford was where I learned to speak like this. I used to speak like a Russie. Anyhow, they knocked it out of me there. And since then I've worked in retailing, in management consultancy, in banking, in structural steel, corrugated cardboard box making machinery, printing, publishing, ITV, National Health Service. I was chairman of the Hammersmith Hospital Trust for 14 years, which is why I'm a sir. Cable, BBC, logistics, insurance, restaurants, hotels. I was chair of the Palace Hotel Torquay once for a while. Off-license sales. I was a director of Oddbin for a while. I owned a cookery school, and of course, for a while I was chairman of BT and telecommunications. Now, this is not necessarily a good career model. It was about as unplanned as the trajectory of those silver bullberries that you see in fruit machines in pubs that you have to keep up in the air, up in the machine by working the flippers. So I can't recommend it. It's been very enjoyable, but my experience is about a mile wide, and my father used to say about a foot deep. What I'm going to do is talk about some of the lessons I've learned during that time. You're not to take all of them too seriously, and in due course you'll learn your own, and in particular, sometimes painfully, as I've done, you'll learn from your mistakes. My first job was at Curry's. I was the assistant advertising manager. It was so long ago that you used to work Saturday mornings. I edited the House magazine, which had the lofty name of National Service. But actually, arguably, my most important job was to look after the telltale in the chairman's office. Curry's head office then was in a couple of detached houses in the Uxbridge Road, in not a great state of repair, and in the chairman's office there was a big crack that went from the top left down to the bottom right of the back wall of his office, and across the middle there was a piece of sellotape with a date on it, and my job was to inspect this once a week. The sellotape had broken. I would report it to the chairman. He'd say, "Very good, Bland," and I would replace it with another piece of sellotape, change the date, and so we would go on. When I last looked, those two houses were still standing, so obviously I did my job well. The other lesson I learned was, and this was the chairman who was called Curry, everybody on the board was called Curry, which was why eventually I moved on. I spotted that I wasn't. It was his favourite story. It was, he discovered a cleaning lady who had a tin of Ajax abrasive powder. You know that white stuff that you shake and scrub. Most of you are too young to remember it, but some of you aren't. Anyhow, on the top of those cans there were about half a dozen holes, and she'd exposed the holes, and she was putting sellotape over all but one hole. There's a lot of sellotape in this story. And the chairman asked her why she was doing this, and she said, actually, it's very wasteful if you shake it out with all the holes exposed, so I'm covering them up so that I don't go through the Ajax can so fast. He thought this was wonderful. I thought at the time that the pair of them were barking mad. I no longer think that, because more businesses are run by people who control the detail of costs and turn the lights out when they leave the office, who have a small business mentality even in a big business, than people who see the big picture, understand the strategy, but forget about the importance of controlling costs. And controlling costs needs, I think, and this is my lesson that I learned, it needs to be inspired by and exemplified by top management behavior. Everybody knows in an organization if top management is behaving badly. They rapidly find out, and we all need to remember that. My next job was at the Singer Sewing Machine Company. I learned two things there. I learned how to buttonhole, and I could still do that if you could find a Singer Sewing machine for me to show you. But what I also learned was that great brands can disappear. Singer was like Hoover, eponymous with the sewing machine. You didn't buy a sewing machine, you went and bought a Singer. It had, in 1910 in St. Petersburg, it had 10,000 employees. When I joined Singer, they had 15,000 employees on Clydebank making sewing machines. Where are they now? Gone. Gone, gone. The brand kind of lingers on badge machines that are made somewhere in the Far East. But great brands, if they're not nurtured, if they don't adapt, if they don't respond to competition, and Singer did not, can disappear. And many of them have. When I was a boy in Northern Ireland, it was an economy that depended on linen and on shipbuilding. And I don't know what happened to those, but they ain't around anymore. My next job was at Booz Allen and Hamilton, where I was a management consultant for about 7 years. And there I learned something which I modestly entitled Bland's Law. And you have to listen carefully to understand Bland's Law. It goes like this, and that is the amount of backbiting, office politics, and general skullduggery in an organization is in direct proportion to the nobility of its goals.